You're listening to The Bird Bath. This episode of The Bird Bath is brought to you by Ignite Veterinary Solutions. Veterinary Receptionist Week is April 19th through the 25th, and it's the perfect moment to recognize the people who hold your practice together. Because receptionists don't just answer phones. They shape the client experience, they keep schedules moving, and they make everything work. That's why Ignite, a global veterinary learning company, built the Veterinary Receptionist Certificate of Excellence, or the VRCE. Right now, you can get 25% off enrollment, and when you sign up during Veterinary Receptionist Week, your team can graduate in 13 weeks or less and earn an additional $100 gift card. This isn't just training, it's confidence that shows up in every client interaction. Go to vrce.vet, that's vrce.vet, and use promo code BIRDBATH25 at checkout. Make this the moment your front desk levels up. Welcome back to the Bird Bath. Each week we scrape the surface of the news you need to know, so let's get into it. The top story this week is one that is near and dear to our heart. Yes, that's right. For once, the Bird Bath gets to make its own news. We are super excited to announce our own brand new veterinary market intelligence platform designed to help the business side stakeholders in veterinary medicine access, analyze, and act on industry data all in one place. This new product we're calling the Bird Bath Terminal. It's the opportunity for people across the industry to have a live practice map, a directory of consolidators and local groups, and industry-wide trends in a single interactive system. Our proprietary data set covers nearly 37,000 practices across the US and over 80 enterprise corporate groups across all 50 states and 2 US territories. Every single week, we're updating the corporate data and keeping the entire database refreshed every single month. You guys know that I cover this kind of stuff every single week. Every single week and every single day, really, I'm going in here and reading about the different news stories that's happening, looking at different practices, seeing who owns what practices are unique opportunities. And now I've put this all together as a way for people to be able to really dig into it. This has sort of been a passion project of something that I've been working on for a while. It's a really in-depth and deep resource that allows people to not only understand the whole scope of what's going on in our industry, whether you're a corporate practice group, whether you're a vendor selling services to vet clinics, whether you're a private equity partner or an investor, or someone that just wants to better understand what's going on across our entire industry. Maybe an association or a board that doesn't have the full view of what the industry is doing. The Bird Bath Terminal is your one-stop shop for all the information you need. Prices start as low as $299 a month, and organizations can also join our data partner program, giving you 25% off any of our 3 different tiers. Make sure to click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Bird Bath Terminal. Our next story is one that I guess maybe was inspiring to me after watching the space shuttles landing and seeing all of the future stuff going on. But Zoetis and Zipline have partnered to expand veterinary services across Kenya. Now, if you're not familiar with Zipline, you're definitely familiar with Zoetis, but let's dig into Zipline. It is a really cool company. It's a drone delivery business, which is actually going on here in Dallas as well. The first time you see it, you think that a plane is coming in to land, and you see it smaller and smaller and smaller until it drops off a package in someone's front door. Well, Zipline now is taking this service and they're bringing it to Kenya, and they launch from these designated hubs, and they're delivering veterinary products such as wound care and production health medicines to underserved areas like rural clinics and animal health service providers and farms across the country. The utilization of drone technology in this sector is something that's really reduced the overall delivery times. It used to be days or hours to now being as quick as minutes to get these sort of medications into the hands of the people that need them across Kenya. Overall, they've got over 1,200 different farmers that have been trained in new animal health practices, and they're really looking at a way to be able to scale this. These farmers are going out and actually training others so that they can get their hands on the medication and provide the best care for animals across the country. Zipline is rapidly expanding, and I wouldn't be surprised if you all either have seen one or expecting to see one soon in your hometown. The autonomous drone delivery company raised $200 million of funding in January, bringing their total raise to over $800 million. Their goal here is for Zipline to expand across the next 2 years, all across the US, and then these special projects in underserved areas. Again, this is something pretty cool. I think it brings me back to the days, if you're a long time, well, maybe not that long time, but long time to me. And Adam Wysocki is now making all the news with his vet software hub. But if you remember back when Vitus Vet was happening, they were doing Vet Ship RX, which was using Shipt and then I think DoorDash for a while to bring the medications directly from practices to people's homes. So that last mile delivery. Well, now you could have a drone deliver this, and it's something pretty neat there. I know Vet Hero is taking some of the mantle to try and tackle this last mile. So might not be too long when here in the US, you're going to start seeing a Zipline delivery from your local vet clinic. From robots to new leaders, Heartland Veterinary Partners names Connor Lowry as the CEO in an overall planned leadership transition. Their new CEO has served as Heartland's COO for nearly 10 years and as president and COO for the last 3 years. After being at the Heartland business for quite a while, coming from the human healthcare side of things, the team at Heartland seems very excited about the new leadership. In their press release, Luke Schroeder, who's a partner and co-head of Griffin's healthcare group, Griffin is the private equity group behind Heartland, he said Connor's appointment reflects a thoughtful and deliberate succession planning process. He has played a central role in building operational excellence, stewarding Heartland's vet-centric culture, and executing on the company's growth strategy. And the board has full confidence that he will not only continue the company's success, but take it to the next level. Heartland's previous CEO is transitioning to be on the company's board of directors to continue to provide strategic help. So this is something they've been planning on and looking forward to for a while. It's going to be interesting. Heartland has been rapidly growing to what they say nearly 350 practices. Our terminal has pretty much most of those practices mapped and ready to roll. And the space that they're growing in continues to grow from that more regional location to across 32 different states. Another interesting thing about this deal is that Griffin Investors, who's the private equity group, not only has a foothold in Heartland in the veterinary practices, but they're also the private equity owner of Vetnique Labs. They've been with them for the last 3 years, and if you haven't had a chance to check out Petnique before, they do pet health and wellness products, and they do topical solutions, supplements, dermatology, ear care support, lots of different things like that. So it's always interesting whenever you look at these different groups that are the owners of vet practices to see what else falls in their portfolio. And in Griffin's case, they've got not only the practices, but some of this supplement support as well. So congratulations to Connor on the new role. Looking forward to seeing what this means for Heartland as they move forward. Another story that I thought was interesting, but it was more just kind of a number, and it's a thread that I wanted to pull on and maybe drop into some people's minds to think about. But Nordhealth, which is the parent company of ProVet, which is a practice management software that we know here in the US, announced and released their 2025 growth numbers. They're a publicly traded company on the Oslo Stock Exchange in Norway, and that's the Nordhealth side of things. And so they put out these reports. So you get a really interesting look into where the numbers are going. Now, Nordhealth provides practice management software, not just for the vet space, but for the therapy side of the world as well. And they're global in their reach, but they've been growing and trying to get the foothold in the US. They had a really big win in Europe by rolling out their service across all of the CVS Group practices in Europe, which was a big thing as the CVS Group was hit with a cyber attack and needed to find a more robust software. But in this report, Nordhealth said their veterinary business has achieved a 10.9% growth in implemented ARR, annual recurrent revenue. And they grew from 24.2 million euros in December of 24 to 26.8 million euros in December of 25. And that's interesting because it's always interesting to see numbers going up. And so the thing that I found particularly interesting, though, was that their largest ARR growth was in the US market. They saw a 41.7% growth in their annual recurrent revenue in the US market in their veterinary services. So ProVet Cloud, which is what a lot of people see it as, grew 41.7% in the last year. They also saw over 35% growth in the UK, as well as over 27% growth in Southern Europe. They're starting to push into Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and some of the other countries across the European market. But I found this particularly interesting because it kind of aligned in a unique way to some data that came from John Ayres about PIMS adoption. When you looked at those numbers, the ProVet spacing here didn't seem to have the ability to have grown 42% year over year. And there's some corporate groups that I know weren't accounted for in that spot. So it was one of these things, I'm not going to fully dissect it, but I thought it was interesting just to see that a company that has to report these figures is showing a really solid growth. But when we're looking at survey results, we're not seeing that in the utilization. So maybe when we look at these survey results, are we getting the full understanding of corporate practices? Are we getting more regional focuses? Or do we need to see a better and broader scope of how we're assessing technology utilization in practice before we make these inferences? Just kind of a thought here. Congrats to Nordhealth for the growth this year. Finally, good news for anyone. If you listen to the show, I have to assume you either like pets or you're just into listening to my voice, but I can't imagine that's the case. But Best Friends Animal Society has reported that 4 million dogs and cats found homes in 2025. More interesting than that, though, is that they said 2 out of 3 shelters have reached what they call no-kill status. Now, no-kill status is basically no pet is ever euthanized in the clinic. So they say about 10% of dogs and cats entering shelters are sick and do need to be humanely euthanized for that case. So Best Friends Animal Society says any shelter doing a 90% save rate benchmark will qualify as no kill. So they said 2 out of 3 practices in 2025 hit that benchmark, which is absolutely incredible. It brought me back to some numbers that I had seen from Hills when they were talking about their state of shelter report and the Massachusetts SPCA Angel location, which has increased their live outcomes by 26% for large dogs since 2022. It's this interesting way that we're seeing people sort of reinvesting and rethinking how they handled the adoption in clinics. If we can challenge people to understand what a no-kill shelter can be, it really increases the opportunity for people to find this. Now, one number that did come out from a different report, an analyst report by Piper Sandler, showed that in 2019 to 2024, dogs did see an increase of euthanasia from 7 to 9% from 2019 to 2024. But if we're starting to see that trickle down post-COVID, how many times can we say that? But I think we're starting to see maybe some of this wave of the COVID puppies starting to get us to a spot where people are in a more stable spot. One last thing that Best Friends Animal Society said in their report was that in 2016, around 1 million dogs and cats were killed in America's shelters because shelters didn't have the community support or the resources they needed to save their lives. More than 2 out of 3 U.S. shelters reached no kill in 2025, and hundreds more are within reach of that goal. So they don't feel like it's impossible for us to get to that 3 out of 3 number, or let's get to 4 out of 5, or whatever slice we can do, 7 out of 8. Whatever number we can get to make it so that we can save more animals' lives, because this is a real way to make a really big impact. So congratulations. I feel like I'm saying congratulations to everyone this episode, but congratulations to Best Friends Animal Society and to everyone that's devoting their time and their effort to the shelter medicines that are allowing us to keep these animals healthy and help them get into new homes. And for more on these and other stories, join us by subscribing to our Substack. There's a link in the bio. And don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing and rating the show. For The Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.